busy. We got a bunch of people on board all at the same time. Dr. Jennifer Bryan joins us. She is with the Mississippi State Medical Association. Oxford Police Chief Jeff McCutchen joins us. He is president of the second vice president of the Mississippi Association of Chiefs of Police, and Marie Cochran joins us as well. Her family has endured more than any family should have to endure in recent years because of Kratom. And so, Dr. Bryan, let's start with you this morning. I think there are some people that know about Kratom. They know about what is going on, but I'm just going to be honest. I think there are a lot of people that have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about Kratom and the availability of that. I'm going to use this phrase, and then you correct me if I'm wrong, opioid-like substance, or at least a substance that has very similar tendencies to opioids.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us this morning. You're right. There is a deficit of kind of understanding of what we're talking about. So first of all, I'll say the FDA did declare this, classify it as an opioid 4 years ago. This is a very dangerous product that acts just like pain medication and stimulant. It binds the opioid receptors in the brain and has those both stimulant and opioid effects on the brain at higher doses. We're seeing overdoses. We're seeing deaths from this. It's causing quite a problem, and it's something we've been engaged in the past few years, and it's finally gaining momentum across the state. We're seeing problems border to border here with this in households and really disruptive to people's lives.
There are a bunch of entities in Mississippi, the entire law enforcement community, whether you're talking about Police Chiefs Association, Sheriff's Department, state troopers, et cetera, in addition to a number of medical organizations that would like to see Kratom put on the schedule as a controlled substance. Police Chief Jeff McCutchen joins us this morning. Chief McCutchen, I appreciate your time as well. So in terms of law enforcement, the law enforcement community wanting to see regulation and scheduling of Kratom, tell us a little bit more about that. We got Chief McCutchen there?
Yeah, I got him on here. Let's see.
Not hearing him right this second. We'll come back to Chief McCutchen in just a second, or we'll at least try to. Let's bring Marie Cochran into the conversation. And Marie, first of all, I'm sorry for the pain that your family, your children, and you and extended family members have had to go through in the loss of your husband. He became, at least as I understand it, addicted to Kratom and took what was seemingly normal life and kind of spun out of control over the course of a couple of years. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Hey, good morning. Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me come and share my story with y'all. I love talking about it as much as I can, every opportunity I can. Jeremy, let me first and foremost say he was a wonderful man. He was a Marine. He was very proud of our country. He was very proud to serve our country. He was also a Christian. He was a devout father, husband, just checked off all the boxes, right? He's the kind where you would never expect this to happen. Unfortunately, like some veterans in our country that we struggle with PTSD, mental health issues. Jeremy was the same. He had struggled in the past with addiction, more hard drugs before, things that were very easily accessible, things that would get him into rehab. But the thing with that is he was very functional. He was a leader at work. He was a manager. He ran a very prominent construction company in Atlanta at that time, and had a lot of great friends following him. But he was very functional, and he was able to get off of them cold turkey without having any issues. We moved to Mississippi so I could be closer to my family, and around that time is when he was introduced to Kratom. And he was very organic. I used to call him very granola. He loved natural. He loved herbs, all things. He loved his green drinks. But just very healthy, just very, very, very healthy man. Never broke a bone in his life, never had any health issues. but he got introduced to Kratom through gas stations. And slowly but surely and eventually very aggressively became addicted to Kratom. He became somebody that we didn't recognize physically, emotionally, mentally. He became very distant, began having hallucinations. His hygiene was terrible. He lost his job. Every bit of his money that when he had a job was going to pay for Kratom. He spent easily $50,000 in 1 year just on Kratom alone. It was very, very difficult to watch somebody and have them tell me, but it's good, it's fine, it's natural. I'm not addicted to it, it's fine. When I knew better. I dug in, I did the research, and no matter what I tried to tell him of, this is what's killing you. Sorry.
Let's pause there for a second, Marie, and we'll give you a second to gather yourself as well. And let's see if we've got Chief McCutchen where he can jump in now. Chief McCutchen, Police Chief in Oxford and part of the State Association of Chiefs of Police. Chief McCutchen, what are you seeing on a daily basis? Obviously, the law enforcement community would like to see Kratom removed from the readily accessible gas station shelves. You walk in and you see it all over the place. Tell us a little bit about the position of law enforcement. I think we've got some issue with the connection with Chief McCutchen. So let me ask you, Dr. Bryan, about that as well. We're in a spot where you can walk into a gas station and easily purchase Kratom products. What's going on with this? Why is it so readily available?
So a couple of things. One, this for lack of a better word, snuck in under the radar kind of as an additive. And before we knew it, it was available literally everywhere. So I want to say again, you wouldn't buy Percocet over the counter in a gas station, and that is exactly what's happening. This is the next phase of the opioid crisis. Our rehab centers are overflowing. Your child, your spouse can walk in and do this, and what we are seeing are rehab centers overflowing. The expense with this is significant. I'll say with our law enforcement partners, their problem is, like with the intervention courts, they're having trouble with people who are trying to, when they work through the courts, to have a job in the community, while they're working off their time or sentence. They were testing negative and for drugs at that time because we couldn't test for Kratom, but they were losing their jobs and running out of money. And that was eventually how they kind of stumbled into how widespread Kratom is interfering with the lives of people that are trying to return to the community. We're seeing families broken up. We are seeing people bankrupting themselves, dying from this medication that right now literally any person can walk in and buy. And before he gets back on the line, and I hope we get him, I did want to thank Commissioner Sean Tyndall with the Department of Public Safety, who came onto the coalition this past Friday and just briefly mentioned the Mississippi State Troopers Association, the Mississippi Sheriff's Association, the Mississippi Law Enforcement Officers Association, the Association of Chiefs of Police, the Mississippi Municipal League. Yeah. And then, I think it's 32 cities and 15 counties around the state already have banned Kratom. There's broad support on the local level that this is a problem. We need it Schedule 3, and we need a ban, just like we did with tianeptine through the legislature a couple of years ago, which has been wildly successful.
I don't want to conflate two conversations here. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk about hemp as well in the legislature, and what we're talking about, I think, is either synthetic or unregulated substances that are readily available. How does all of that tie together?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'll comment first on the synthetic. I would like for legislators to watch that. There is no synthetic Kratom widely available to my knowledge. It's leaf extract in the gas stations right now. This synthetic thing has come up, in my opinion, to kind of poison what is strong legislation. Is if this passes, if this gains legs, maybe we can manufacture synthetic Kratom on the side and still keep selling it. The problem is all forms of Kratom need to be off the gas station shelves. They need to be off the shelves, period. Regarding hemp, not the same, hard to overdose on hemp, but people are dying from gas station Kratom right now.
We'll pick up the conversation in just a couple of minutes, visiting with Dr. Jennifer Bryan from the Mississippi State Medical Association, Marie Cochran who lost her husband to an addiction to Kratom, and hopefully we'll be able to get things squared away with Jeff McCutchen, the police chief in Oxford, and part of the Mississippi Police Chiefs Association. Quick timeout. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. An important conversation happening here with you on MRC on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back right after this. Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on this Monday as we start a new week, the 3rd of March, visiting with Dr. Jennifer Bryan from the Mississippi State Medical Association, Marie Cochran, and also Oxford Police Chief Jeff McCutchen. And we're going to try here one more time to start things off with Jeff McCutchen. Chief, appreciate some of your time this morning. We're talking about Kratom and the readily available product in gas stations in many places across the state of Mississippi. The law enforcement community has come out strongly against this being available the way it is. Talk to us about law enforcement position on this issue.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I think this is very important to talk about. We experienced this around 2019 where we were starting to see high school students, college students, and then members of our community have adverse effects to this drug. And I did get to hear both stories, and they're exactly right. You have no idea what you're getting out of a gas station. When we looked at this in 2019, we bought several samples. We sent them off to labs, and here's what we found out. Most of the products didn't even have legitimate kratom in it, and then the products that were tested, they had so many different elements from lead to even insecticide. I mean, it was all over the map what was in this. You don't know what the doses are. The potency is inconsistent. I mean, it's random, and half the time, again, you're not even getting the real product that you think you're buying.
So, Chief McCutchen, from a law enforcement perspective, what is the outcome that you and your colleagues would like to see? Is it complete ban? Is it regulation? Is it scheduling so that this is something that, if it were to be administered, has to come from doctors? What are you looking for?
Yeah, we want to ban it from being able to just a wide range of these convenience stores and gas stations. Again, in our what we've asked for is a Schedule 3, and again, get it out of these places where there's no regulation. There are a lot of studies that people are going to tout and say, well, people in other countries are taking this, and this is the way. But here's the truth: that's not what's happening in America. When you go to Asia or these other places where they may be taking a direct product grown, they're also not mixing that with other medications, with other drugs. This is where you see psychosis. This is where you see overdoses. This is where you see law enforcement having to deal with someone that they're completely in a state of crisis. And so you can't use that data to say this is what's going to work in America, and then you go buy it out of a gas station. It's not apples to apples.
Forgive me if this is an elementary question, but people go to a bar. And they can buy a beer or they can buy a cocktail. Is there a scenario where we are going to see Kratom drinks that are available in bar settings?
Again, I hope not. I think that's something that we're going to be passionate about fighting, because the argument continues to goes back to the same thing. Who's regulating it? How do you know what products you're getting? What are the adverse effects of, let's say you do get a Kratom drink. Who has studied what happens when it is made, when it is then stored and stays in a container or in some warehouse, and the temperatures are all going all over the place? Any type of medication that you get, it tells you, store it in these certain type of environments, do these things. So if we don't have regulation, if we don't have someone looking into this, we're just taking an unknown product, we're pushing it onto people, and then law enforcement, first responders, they're the ones that's going to have to deal with this. And you've already heard the stories of how this impacts families. We're looking at, hey, how can we make a buck and we can put some type of intoxicating environment into someone, when we need to be looking at, let's look at the health side of it. Let's look at how it's going to affect our families and our communities first, and then take steps to move forward.
That's the voice of Oxford Police Chief Jeff McCutchen. He's also on the he's vice president of the Mississippi Police Chiefs Association. Chief McCutchen, appreciate you joining the conversation this morning. Hopefully, this is a conversation that we can continue with you down the line.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Marie, I would like to come back to you just for a second. As you hear Dr. Bryan talking about this, you hear Chief McCutchen talking about the issues. Is this something that provides you any level of peace? Is it what's the feedback that you have gotten in your fight to see Kratom removed from the shelves, especially in gas stations? We may try and I apologize for the technical issues. Trying to do 3 guests at one time is sometimes a challenge. So, Dr. Bryan, the legislature, I mean, this is kind of in their hands. There's a bill that's been passed by the Senate, and I think you alluded to this a second ago. I think the wording is naturally occurring is okay. It's the synthetic piece where they are potentially looking at elimination. You don't think that goes far enough, though?
All forms of kratom need to be off the shelves. Leaf only, synthetic only, that's not enough. It needs to be all forms. And I would like to follow up the regulation comment. Mm-hmm. No matter how clean or regulated you make this product, you are then talking about a pure opioid. Again, the FDA has classified this as an opioid. We have made strides in this state on the opioid crisis. This is a major backslide to be able to purchase this in the gas stations. We need to close the back door to accessing these drugs. No doubt it helps some people with their pain because that's what it is. That's what it does. And it addicts people the same way these prescription medications do. I don't think anybody here thinks that you need to be able to buy Percocet in a gas station, yet
Sure.
That's exactly what's happening.
All right, so let me ask you this from a medical perspective. So we talk about scheduling, right? Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, and that has to do with controlled substances. They have to be prescribed by doctors. They're very highly regulated in pharmacies in the way that they are distributed. Is there a place for Kratom in the pain management field as prescribed by doctors in the same way that, despite the fact that there is a terrible opioid problem, there is a place for opioids in at least the way they are prescribed when it's done responsibly?
Right. So what I would tell you is that opioids have been prescribed for many, many years, and there are plenty of opioids that are available for pain control. This is not unlike the cannabis conversation that, sure, any product can be researched, but when this one has been researched, and they initially thought there was some hope in this field, but there was not. There were too many side effects, too many problems, too many toxicity issues, and so it was really largely abandoned as a valid measure of pain control in the prescription arena. Now, certainly new research could prove things, but the way things are being done right now, it's quite reckless. And again, I'll say the rehab centers are overflowing with these people, and the expense to the system is quite significant. We really are at a crisis point with this. It's a common sense situation that we just need to get this stuff off the shelves in our state. There is a lobby at play here, and while I understand there's a lot of money in this market, the lives of Mississippians are at stake, and I really appreciate, our coalition here. It's broad, particularly Commissioner Sean Tyndall, and I forgot to thank Justice Robert Chamberlain with the Mississippi State Intervention Courts Advisory Committee. And could I mention Lieutenant Governor Hoseman, Senator Angela Turner Ford, Senator Joey Fillingham, and Representative Stacey Wilkes and Lee Yancey, and Senator Daniel Sparks, who have all been great partners on advancing this and understanding the issue our state faces.
And just for clarification, are we calling Kratom an opioid or an opioid-like substance? And maybe there's not a lot of difference, but just in terms of technically.
We have said both, but in that letter I think you got a copy of, we talk about the FDA did classify it that 4 years ago as an opioid.
Okay.
But again, it acts like it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, and this is just a hole that needs to be plugged in the situation.
Marie, I think we've got you back on the line, and I appreciate your patience this morning. I'll go back to what I asked a second. As you hear this conversation with Dr. Bryan and Chief McCutchen, is this something that gives you some level of peace, that gives you a level of optimism, or is there another emotion that comes up for you?
Oh my gosh, I can't even put into words how appreciative I am of this and how much meaning and purpose it puts specifically to Jeremy. And I will say that what makes Jeremy's story so impactful and so meaningful in all this is his death was ruled via autopsy 100% was from a kratom overdose, from kratom intoxication. It says it on his death certificate. So there's not a single person in this world, I don't care who you are, what kind of education you have, I don't care, because I have a death certificate that says it. And nobody in this world can tell me that kratom does not kill, because I deal with the repercussions of it every single day. And if one person, that being Jeremy or whomever else, one person loses their life as a result of kratom, that should be enough. That's enough.
Yeah. Marie, it's a powerful story. We appreciate very much you sharing it with us this morning. This is a conversation that we're going to continue to follow. It's legislation that we're going to continue to follow as well. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Marie.
Thank you for letting me. I appreciate it.
Dr. Bryan, thanks for coming in this morning, being in studio with us. My appreciation to Jeff McCutchen, Chief of Police in Oxford, as well. We'll continue to talk about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us the platform.
We've got more coming up. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.